Hey guys, tonight we're going to step back into the dusty, bustling world of the Wild West, where the food is as mysterious and quirky as the cowboys themselves. Picture this. You're walking into a dimly lit saloon with wooden floors that creak beneath your boots. The air's filled with the mix of laughter, a piano plinking a ragtime melody, and the unmistakable scent of beans simmering somewhere in the back. You probably won't survive this culinary adventure without feeling a bit peckish, so grab a snack if you need one. Before you get too comfy, feel free to tap like or subscribe, but only if you're genuinely enjoying the calm around here. Tell me where you're listening from and what time it is over there. I love seeing how far this sleepy little journey reaches. Now go ahead and lower the lights. Maybe let a fan hum in the background, and let's drift gently into tonight's story together. You wake up in the Old West, and your stomach's already growling. You remember reading somewhere that the food in those dusty saloons wasn't exactly winning any gourmet awards. In your mind, you're envisioning the movies with cowboys sitting at rickety tables, watching scenes unfold over generously filled plates. But honestly, that bowl of beans wasn't just added for visual effect. It was quite the staple. Beans were like the avocado toast of the cowboy era, packed with protein and as enduring as the prairie winds. Let's talk about those infamous beans. Imagine cracking open a tin can, bringing you a step closer to what might have been a week's supply of meals all in one. You wouldn't believe it, but they celebrated such simplicity in their meals. Kind of like us giving a 5-star review that one time your meal delivery app actually arrived on time. The beans, if they were lucky enough to indulge a bit, might share that tin space with some bacon, because even in the West, you needed to sprinkle a bit of pure indulgence into survival. That salty combo was often washed down with a coffee that could wake the dead. This wasn't your artisan cold brew with a hint of nutmeg. This was the cowboy coffee, a concoction known to scorch tongues and possibly remove paint. Historians still argue whether this was by design or a plain lack of options. But the proud tradition was to make it as thick as courage itself. Okay, so here's the wild part. Sometimes it's said that cowboys would brew their coffee with eggshells. Yeah, eggshells. It supposedly made the drink less bitter or something like that. My guess is they were just trying to find creative ways to recycle. Picture sitting at a saloon counter, feeling the rugged strength of wooden beams above you and the welcoming clink of metal cutlery behind you. But it wasn't just beans on the menu. A real powerhouse of saloon variety, let me tell you. Variety, in this case, meant a range from beef stews to mutton that may or may not be yesterday's catch of the day. You couldn't really be sure. It's like those days you open your fridge, hoping something new magically appears. Overnight, though, spoiler alert, it's still the same leftovers glaring back at you. Despite the simplicity, there's a charm to this era, when folks gathered around to share a meal that, at its core, was about refueling for the hard days on the range. Honestly, there's something beautifully communal in that make-do spirit, a precursor to today's fast food culture where the drive-through person knows your order before you say it out loud, and all without the convenience of a contactless card swipe. The cooks, often the unsung heroes of this world, whipped up meals that could either warm your belly or send you running for the outhouse, leaving behind tales that remain as legendary as how they managed to make do with sparse supplies and scarce refrigeration. And the truth is, historians have yet to agree on what was a real delicacy versus what was more like an edible dare. So, there you have it. You've just stepped foot into the character-laden chaos and culinary peculiarities that were the saloons of the Wild West. With every story, there's a bite of history you might not have seen coming, much like encountering a raccoon rifling through your garbage. Unwelcome, yet curiously fascinating. Before you know it, you're both engrossed and a little sleepy, letting the rhythmic notes of the past lull you into a gentle trance where beans and bacon dance in your dreams. You shuffle over to the saloon table, your boots making a soft thud with each step, and plop down onto one of those wooden chairs that let out a sigh under the weight of countless predecessors. The saloon's warmth wraps around you like the cozy blanket you won't admit is your favorite at home. The flicker of candlelight dances on the walls, and there's that familiar hum of conversation, like white noise for your bedtime mind. So here's the deal. In a world where food options were as sparse as a Wi-Fi signal in a desert, beans took center stage not just out of necessity, but because they were a culinary chameleon, ready to blend with whatever was tossed their way. But let's not forget our good old friend, the cowboy coffee. Imagine, if you will, a brew so intense that it could double as roofing tar, yet beloved by those who sipped it day in and out. The caffeine-induced energy was probably just what they needed to lasso cattle or engage in epic standoffs. Historians still find themselves debating whether cowboys really preferred their coffee thick as a spaghetti western plot, or if it was simply the best that could be managed miles away from a Starbucks. Wait, stop for a second. Here's an odd sidestep. You know how today we might toss an ice cube into our steaming hot coffee to cool it down? In the West, they'd settle disputes quicker than you could say settle up, because letting your coffee go cold wasn't even an option. They didn't come all this way for a lukewarm drink. So picture it mashed between weathered hands and seasoned tongues bordering on permanently scalded. What's fascinating is that in music-filled saloons, the menu might branch out to include oats, often found mingling with meats in a way that would make vegetarians today roll their eyes harder than when they're offered a plate of bacon by mistake. The curious blend was as much about the kitchen's creativity as it was about stretching those limited supplies. Kind of like when you find a random assortment in your cupboards and somehow whip together a meal to rival an elaborate TikTok cooking hack, except maybe with fewer views. And speaking of peculiar mixes, there's this little-known dish called son-of-a-gun stew. Yes, you heard correctly. A stew with a name straight out of a Western, because sometimes beans and bacon needed an odd companion or two. The exact list of ingredients was more a case of throw it all in the pot, but some claimed it contained the heart or liver of a calf. It's a dish that would probably get 1,000 views or two on a cooking show, especially with its mystery meat twist. It's like the Wild West version of clearing out the fridge for soup night. The air in the saloon wraps around you, warmer now than the chill of the outside world, and you find yourself thinking about how they lived. These rough-edged folks, rugged but managing to carve out pockets of civilization in a world that tested their mettle at every turn. And here you are, questioning whether you should have that second serving of ice cream, even knowing the answer is always yes in your own modern-day kitchen showdown. Now, imagine sitting there in that warm, welcoming glow, your second cup of coffee in hand, which is somehow even stronger than the first. The tension in your shoulders melts just a little as you imagine the long evening stretching before you, with the gentle tap of rain against your window and the faint buzz of your phone across the room. You relax into the scene, letting the smell of the saloon's simmering stew transport you back to a time when the biggest challenge was finding a good seat by the fire and hoping there was room for a few more bites. With each sip and every sigh, you let the history blend into your thoughts, like those mismatched pajamas that somehow feel perfect, drifting easily on the gentle currents of our tale, letting sleep quietly pull you closer, one bean at a time. As you sit there, sinking deeper into your makeshift saloon chair, a thought sails across your mind. How did those cowboys make it through the day on such simple fare? You imagine them riding the trail, the sun hanging heavy in that brilliantly cloudless sky, their hats casting shadows that only seem to half protect from an aggressive sun. The thing is, meal options were as sparse as decent Wi-Fi in your favorite coffee shop when it's packed to the rafters, leaving you half wondering why you ever left the house. For those cowboys, though, it was all about maximizing what they had. There was something called hardtack, a sort of biscuit that's as tough as your Monday morning resolutions to start going to bed earlier. Picture yourself gnawing on a cracker that could practically be used as a makeshift hockey puck, and you've got the idea. It was a good thing these cowboys were sturdy folk, because softening up one of these bad boys took perseverance, kind of like surviving on the threads of mobile data left when you've run out of Wi-Fi. Again, now, let's be honest here. If you had to choose, you'd probably swipe left on trail grub, preferring the comforts of crispy fries right to your doorstep. But back then, they got creative with whatever was lying around. And oh boy, the creativity spared no pride. Pancakes were an absolute treat if they could grab some flour. And they'd whip those up quicker than you'd say, "Syrup, please." Of course, eggs might find their way into the mix if a nearby ranch offered up a surplus, and soon you had a breakfast as rare as finding an uneaten food item in your roommate's shared fridge. Here's a quirky tidbit for you, though. Cowboys also had their hands on a delicacy they deemed necessary: jerky. This wasn't the sweet teriyaki kind you might sneak into an afternoon movie showing. Cowboy jerky was all business. Dried, salted, and unapologetically rugged. The jerky's indomitable spirit matched its consumers, because truthfully, tender cuts were more a bedtime story than reality. With your head lightly resting on your hand, the question lingers. Where did they ever imagine such meals would take them? Historians still reflect on whether these practical meals were celebrated by the campfire or endured for survival. It's the kind of debate that can circle as endlessly as your thoughts on whether to delete those unnecessary phone apps you swear are costing you extra clarity. A sound drifts through your cozy scene, like wind rustling an untamed prairie, and it has a rhythm of its own, guiding you further into the story. You remember the same rhythm beats through your consciousness when curled up, aimlessly scrolling, trying to match OG TikTok dances, all while knowing it's probably bedtime. The same rhythm they heard under the stars, their campfires flickering like candlelights in old windows, and meals becoming a gathering of tales to mend the loneliness of endless trails. Honestly, it's funny how you strike parallels between cowboys roughing it on the trail and our own 3 a.m. kitchen foraging. They could pull sustenance from the most unyielding of circumstances, while today, an untouched chocolate bar is all it takes to bring you joy on those nocturnal wanderings. As the night deepens, you hear the soft tap of rain against the window. It's the same sound they might have heard, gentle and rhythmic, settling them into a different kind of slumber beneath the vast open skies. And just like that, the historical fabric of your imagination intertwines with the present, a blend so seamless that the confines of your modern, cozy habitat feel just a little more expansive as you gently glide towards sleep, heartbeat slowing with each comforting breath, much like the silent tales of the windswept frontier years before. With the imaginary scene buoying you comfortably, you close your eyes for a moment, letting the rustic aura of a bygone era swirl around you like a sea of comforting nostalgia. You visualize the warmth of a campfire, the wood crackling like the reliable clack of a keyboard deep in a late-night writing spree. It's a scene where cowboys gather, their faces illuminated by flickering flames, sending shadows that dance mischievously across creased leather and worn denim. It's funny to think that their version of a night by the campfire, swapping tales over a freshly brewed pot of cowboy coffee, might have been as essential as our nighttime rituals, binging our favorite shows because sleep just isn't ready to claim us yet. For the cowboys, a pot of beans slow cooked over the fire was like the podcast episode you've saved for a perfectly tucked-in evening. The aroma was a warm embrace, a sign that the day's toils were leaving something solid to savor. While you're reveling in your own cozy scene, another quirky note trots into view. Picture this. Out on the trail, desserts were a thing, though not the kind you'd expect. Enter the world of spotted pup, also known to some as cowboy cake. Imagine flour, molasses, raisins, and soda, the kind of ingredients that show up in recipes passed down through time, stirring memories as vivid as the flavors themselves. It's essentially the pioneer version of finding a cookie crumb surprise in your old pair of jeans, an unexpected delight. You find yourself thinking about these rugged characters sitting around the fire, each with a worn tin plate, spoon scraping the bottom for that final bite. There's a camaraderie that transcends the horizon, shared experiences interwoven like the quiet moments spent alone yet together. Their evenings were filled with stories that stretched as far as the open plains, leaving the past and future alike suspended in the star-speckled sky. Historians still scratch their heads, debating whether these gatherings were purely survivalist affairs, or whether they also carried the soulful essence of community under starlit canopies. Were those mesmerizing constellations scattered above like porch lights flickering just beyond reach? Did the rustling leaves echo with the kind of quiet comfort you find when you finally collapse onto your bed after a day layered with busyness? And as the fire dims into gentle embers, you consider how meals drawn from necessity still carry tales older than time itself. There may have been grumbling over hard biscuits or grins passed over coffee cups, but the essence of those moments lingers, reminiscent of us balancing practicality with a touch of nostalgia. Though their world was harsh and unyielding, the cowboys seemed to grasp something fundamental, that the stories shared and meals eaten formed the blueprint of human connection, of moments welcomed as dearly as a warm comforter on a breezy autumn night. Just like how you gravitate to familiar sounds and stories, perhaps the cowboys found the crackling campfires and murmured conversations as irreplaceable as the comforting click of the spacebar in a quiet room. In this gentle unfolding of time and reminiscence, you continue to drift along, letting the soft hum of bygone days blend seamlessly with your own cozy surroundings. Each layer of history brings warmth that wraps around you like a favorite sweater, a rhythmic, soothing embrace towards the deepening quiet of this quiet, restful night. As you unwind in this cozy mental cradle, the sounds of a campsite settling down fade into the distance, much like the ambient noise of evening traffic when you crack open a window, just enough to let a breeze flutter in and rustle the curtains. The past and present blur together effortlessly, guiding you further into the folds of relaxation. Your thoughts are gently nudged along the trails of what it felt like to start your day as a cowboy, the sun stealing upward with sleepy reluctance. Mornings were braced with the world's most minimalistic brews, cups that seemed to hatch with the first rays of daylight. Imagine waking to a breakfast over a campfire that's a far cry from the luxurious spread we dream of when our alarms beg for a morning snooze spree. A staple to kick off their day, and perhaps one deserving of modern reinterpretation if you found yourself in a breakfast rut, was the humble bedroll breakfast. With eggs, perhaps, if you were adventurous, and always a grounding presence of coffee, the reliable partner in crime. These meals were quick and filling, much like those pressed-to-go breakfast items you regretfully settle for en route to the office or class, still wishing for something more. All right. But how about this peculiar twist? Cowboys enjoyed sourdough, and not the Instagrammable variety that had a renaissance during recent global slowdowns. This was the real deal, with starters passed around like heirlooms, capturing the rustic spirit of each locale encountered on the trail. Keeping that dough thriving was akin to the kind of attention you might lavish on a finicky gadget that only works when it wants to. Historians muse over whether these were merely utilitarian, or if these doughs harbored secrets of places they'd been, like how a favorite room might resonate with the echoes of laughter long after the joke has been forgotten. The rhythm of these simple meals mirrored the twinkling glow above, paced by the kind of quiet introspection that sneaks into life's pauses. The warmest of beverages in roughest of lands, staring out at horizons that stretched on indefinitely, walking alongside the thunderous quiet of solitude. Hand in hand, coffee and sourdough embodied the nourishing splash that spurred weary travelers onward, offering more than just fuel, hinting at a connection stronger than the relentless solitude of the open range. In those mornings, shared with nothing but the awakening world, it's comforting to envision those moments stitched onto the vast quilt of history, much like those mornings you cherish, where pressing the reset button is your only essential goal. The habitual blend of familiarity combined with vibrancy kept life stitching onward across unyielding terrain, whispering softly in tones gentle as lullabies. And so, the story serenades you, slowed and softened by the hum of the past, cradling you alongside the comforting weight of blankets and cottony softness of a snug headrest. Underworldly light, both dim and kind, so effortlessly calms you into the embrace of night's gentle arms, where dreams wade in tender waves of peace, carrying you further into the cozy kind of silence only night knows how to offer. May your journey tonight continue finding lovely resonance within these tales of forgotten times, like stumbling upon unexpected connections with lost parts of yourself as you let the story guide you into your warm, inviting dreams. With a whisper-soft sigh, you let yourself float further, carried by the gentle tide of this historical reverie. The images of cowboys and campfires become a soothing backdrop as your mind drifts to the curious culinary inventions of the Wild West. It's like scrolling through an ancient sepia-toned feed on your phone, where each dish is presented with the same pride as your neighbor's vacation photos, but perhaps with a bit more grit. So, you find yourself curious about one of their hearty fare staples, chili con carne, Imagine a pot bubbling over hot coals, the air perfumed with spices that bring warmth to the cooling desert nights. It was comfort food for the trail, spicy, filling, and as rugged as the landscapes these cowboys traversed. Some say it was the perfect embodiment of heat and sustenance, much like wrapping your hands around a steaming mug of cocoa on a chilly afternoon, the palms tingling as warmth seeps into your fingers. Here's a quirky detail to nibble on. Some folks believed chili could ward off illness, claiming medicinal qualities as fiery as a dragon's breath. It wasn't about the flavor complexity you'd find in today's gastropub creations. No, their chili's strength lay in its simplicity and robust flavor, a survivalist's dream. We still wonder if it was the chilies themselves, or the bravado inspired by macho tales told over these meals that provided its legendary reputation. Historians still scratch their chins, pondering over whether chili served more than just an appetite, or if it was merely spicy bravado stitched into cowboy lore. Besides chili, there was always a place at the table for bread, though it was less of a restaurant menu staple and more of a lifeline. Imagine biscuits, tough enough to withstand the journey of life lived on horseback. The daily bread was less about choice and more about survival. It was the sort of sturdiness you might expect if IKEA made food. Biscuits accompanied every meal, absorbing everything with willing practicality, steadfast in their silent commitment to the meal, much like you reaching for an extra throw pillow for your couch. In all this unassuming cuisine lay a deeper narrative, a story of ordinary people trudging through extraordinary landscapes, making sense of the world, and leaving hints of laughter and grit like breadcrumbs along a vast, ever-winding path. You picture a cowboy gnawing thoughtfully on a hardtack, staring into the fire, eyes reflecting its flickering light, lost in thought. It's like contemplating life's big questions during a midnight snack run, while knowing the fridge's selection will remain unchanged. Coated in the glow of firelight under an endless sky, those moments warmed solitude with simple pleasures acknowledging time's quiet march. They whispered of hopes and dreams, reflecting your own, nestled in moments of timeless reflection. As your eyelids grow heavier, the narrative evolves into a comforting hum, urging the world's bustle to drift away. Envelop yourself in this sweet embrace, a gentle beckoning toward rest, something as inviting as settling into a perfectly warm blanket on an unexpectedly chilly night. In this cocoon of history and murmured dreams, you find yourself slowly unwinding, letting each heartbeat sink in sync with the deepening silence of the night, cozy, serene, an open invitation to wander through memory's softly lit corridors and onward into the peaceful expanse of uninterrupted sleep. The gentle flow of tales continues to weave through your thoughts, like a soft melody, almost like the purring of a cat nestled at your feet, rhythmic and comforting. The stories of the Old West, laden with flavors and aromas you've never tasted and scents you've never smelled, become a vivid tapestry of experience, a lullaby for the imagination. Now let's imagine you're stepping back into one of those bustling saloons under the cloak of nightfall. You feel the warmth of bodies brushing past, the hum of a crowd mixed with the gentle clinking of glasses as patrons lean on the long, polished wood of the bar. There's a bartender, whisking up a concoction reminiscent of a forgotten era. A thrilling mix of potent spirits and whispers of mystery that rival a flashy cocktail menu on a Saturday night. Drinks at these watering holes weren't just about quenching thirst. They were social alchemy, transforming strangers into confidants and stories into legends. You wouldn't believe the names of some drinks, like prairie oysters, a prairie twist on egg-based gutsiness that goes down with all the elegance of a cowboy riding bareback in a thunderstorm. Historians still muse over whether these outrageous concoctions were born of necessity or wild experimentation. Probably both, reminiscent of how modern pantry scavengers might whip together cereal and OJ, hoping for a miracle. Regardless, these drinks were as much conversation pieces as they were libations, breaking the ice like a cowboy cracking a dusty whip in the high noon sun. And speaking of eccentricities, let's ponder the meals served alongside these drinks. Should you really call them meals? Or were they more like bold culinary dares? In some saloons, oysters were fetched on ice, transported as if partaking in a sparse culinary treasure hunt. Pulled from their briny depths and brought hundreds of miles inland, they became the pièce de résistance on a table seeking to rival the fanciest urban eateries. It remains a delicious debate to this day amongst historians whether these luxury items were indeed served in some saloons, or if tales of such extravagance were spun around campfires by patrons with gold in their pockets and dreams at their fingertips. Imagining lavish meals in such unlikely places is akin to you dreaming of receiving a gourmet 5-course meal from your local food truck. The ambiance of these places, though rough around the edges, revealed a softer heart. Music threaded its way through conversations. A soundtrack constructed from the highwaymen's songs, a piano's cheerful rings, and the melodies of lives intersecting over wooden floors. It was as if the saloon doors opened into another world, a world where time stood still long enough to share a drink and a story. So here you are, resting in the glow of this timeless realm, comfortably cocooned within its rhythm. The whispers of bygone days mingle with the murmur of night, and the warmth of lilting laughter curls into the cozy fabric of your evening. Drift further, letting each tale wrap around you like a knit scarf on a crisp evening, warming you from the inside as you slide gently towards the welcoming embrace of tonight's dreams. Everything lessens to a hush, a reminder of the peace that waits patiently just at the edge of sleep, calling softly to cradle you deep into its tranquil depths. You settle further into this cozy reverie, each detail of the Wild West saloon reverberating like a beloved old song, soothing and familiar. It's like slipping into your oldest pair of slippers, the ones you keep around even when newer pairs line the closet, because they feel just right. The air around you is warm and thick with the aroma of stories untold, hanging like mist on the prairie at dawn. As you linger in this imagined saloon, the scenes wrap around you like a gentle cocoon. Thoughts wander to the characters that filled these places, ragtag bands of travelers, prospectors fueled by the myth of gold, and cowhands riding the endless waves of grassy plains. The classic image of cowboys leaning back, boots propped up on the scarred wood, cigarettes dangling from lips turned up in quiet smirks, speaks of a timeless dialogue between man and the untamed world he inhabited. In the heart of it all, sometimes, literally, a pot of stew bubbled away, its savory scent mingling with the fragrant wood smoke. This nourishing staple was the ultimate equalizer, a concoction that blended the simplicity of meat and root vegetables with whatever spare ingredients the landscape offered up. Think of it as a rustic version of cleaning out your fridge at the end of the week and hoping for the best. Historians are still engaged in a spirited debate over what stew recipes most accurately represented that time, though you can easily imagine the cowboys weren't bound by cookbooks, but by the limitations of a chuck wagon pantry. Did these stews hold secrets of wild game thrown into the mix? Or perhaps the occasional borrowed chicken, liberated from passing farms under the skeletal trees of a moonlit night? The truth, like the taste of those meals, remains elusive. And the bread, oh, the bread. It served as the crux of many meals. Baked in Dutch ovens buried deep in the hot coals, biscuits and sourdough loaves were concocted with tenacity, each one a small victory against the stubborn backdrop of scarcity. These carb comforts offered sustenance wrapped in simplicity, a crashing juxtaposition to the dizzying complexity of the land. Far better than any specialized health-conscious gluten-free substitute you might impulse buy as you wander the aisles with your post-workday cravings. But even in these stories of simplicity arise whimsical notions, like whether cowpokes attempted their own avant-garde culinary twist on the humble biscuit, perhaps adopting methods to make them softer, or introducing herbs to lend some character. Imagine a cowboy with culinary pretensions trying to elevate the everyday biscuit into something fancier. Like that one time you sprinkled Himalayan sea salt on a batch of store-bought cookies just to see if it made a difference. And as the night stretches on and your consciousness gently ebbs away, you're taken by the mingling of these humble meals, invigorating drinks, and the pleasant bustle of bygone gatherings. A tapestry of sounds and flavors quiets the modern world, wrapping around you warmly, invitingly. You find solace in this harmonious blend of history and imagination, an enduring whisper in the soft ears of all things sleepy and serene. Nestled firmly in the embrace of this timeless world, you feel your thoughts slow to a gentle lull. Each breath grows longer, calmer, as the stories cradle you, carrying you peacefully into the night. Let this gentle reminiscence guide you into dreams as comforting and old as the stories themselves, where melodies of the past hum softly beneath the stars, welcoming you into their abiding calm. In this tranquil journey through the textures of time, the stories of the Old West saloons float around you like the gentle rustle of wind through tall prairie grasses. These tales, woven with laughter and the warm glow of candlelit camaraderie, are like snapshots of a world that remains tantalizingly close, yet always just out of reach. Kind of like the satisfying click of a puzzle piece sliding into place. You imagine the restless shuffle of boots on the weathered floorboards, cowboys moving like actors in the world's oldest play, with scripts penned by the wind and sky. Each character was painted in hues of mystery and adventure, bound together by shared meals and unwritten codes that held their rugged society together like the seams of a well-loved saddle. The slumberous hum of the saloon gives way to the imaginations of what lay beyond its swinging doors, where long roads stretched out like ribbons, unfolding under an endless dome of stars. Cattle drives and moonlit campfires transformed into scenes that blurred the line between solitude and brotherhood, with meals morphing from necessity into symbols of human history and motion. Every meal on the trail was a testament to resilience. A bowl of beans or a tin of jerky conjured as spectacle for the enduring spirit. It's a comforting thought, really, that simplicity can embody such resilience and reliance, much like the security of knowing you can always return to the well-worn couch and your favorite blanket at the end of a long day. And just like that, an amusing aside wends its way through the narrative. Those daring trailside meals sometimes included oddly charming combinations. For example, cowboy cooks were known to blend dried apples into stews, a quirky mingling of sweet and savory that might raise an eyebrow or two around a modern dinner table. It's the type of blend you'd likely find on an unexpected menu, daring you to take a taste and reassess what you think you know. The echoes of everyday life on the range fish their way into the cracks of the mind, lost in tranquility's tide. Historians still find themselves pondering whether these army of one cooks possess the boldness and innovation to shake up their menus. A creative rebellion, if you will, against a backdrop of normalcy and grit. Were they mavericks or simply resourceful? The debate lingers right there beside you, as persistent and curious as a cat examining an open cupboard. As you envision that dusky twilight, a sky veiled in sunset's residual embers, the unpredictability of their world feels close to home. With a nod to modernity, you consider how certain constants, like the coziness of shared meals and the unwavering support of good company, transcend time, connecting us under the same expansive sky. Finally, the external world recedes into a gentle hum, fading lovingly into the hush of dusk, whirling into the oblivion of night. You find your breathing softening, matching the timeless rhythm of history woven into the present. A dance almost as familiar as family dinners around a kitchen table. Relinquish your grasp on today's worries and tuck yourself into the richness of this sprawling patchwork of stories. Let the scenes rock you gently into the arms of a rest as deep as it is soothing, where the melodies of old trails whisper softly, their echoes bringing you into harmonious accord with your dreams. Drift quietly, for the night is young, and your path is paved with stories, each waiting to cradle you further into the infinite embrace of sleep. As the night deepens, you remain cocooned in this tapestry of bygone adventures, where tales from the Old West continue to gently unfold like whispers on the wind. The stories carry you along, soothing and rhythmic, much like the sound of rain tapping insistently against the window, inviting you to stay under warm covers just a little longer. Your imagination picks up on the scent of smoke drifting through the air, a heady mixture of campfire and cooking, where each cowboy meal was a testament to ingenuity in the face of scarcity. Cooks, armed with little more than a chuck wagon and enough spirit to outlast a storm, brewed a symphony out of simplicity. And the chuck wagons themselves were like moving feasts of ingenuity, portable kitchens that you'd think were ancestors to modern food trucks, minus the flashy branding and sleek tech. Picture this: you're halfway through the trail on a dusty afternoon, surrounded by the endless horizon and the low murmur of cattle in the distance. Each stop along the trail invites a curious mix of anticipation and rest. The prospect of an evening punctuated by a bowl of camp stew. It was an earthy melange, filled with the chunky promise of root vegetables, cured meats, and anything else that the trail gifted. If a bottle of hot sauce found its way into the mix, it would vanish faster than a guilty conscience. A quirky nugget of trail history that floats up. Cowboys sometimes referred to their coffee and beans as six-shooter stew, poking fun at the meager portions that packed a punch and flavor, if not much else. It's the kind of nickname you'd chuckle over, much like recalling a pet name from yesteryears that still makes you smile. Historians still wrinkle their brows at the choices made on this moving menu. Was coffee truly brewed with a handful of crushed eggshells to help settle the grit? Or was it just another tall tale spun around an evening fire, like our own fondness for recounting the ways we take our coffee? Though perhaps slightly less exaggerated, as you make your way deeper into the folds of the night You can almost hear the clinks and clatters of tin mugs, the playful banter drifting through the air. This camaraderie around shared meals was a balm against the vastness of the land, a timeless balm, not unlike the solace found in a hurried text from a friend on a day filled with silence. You lay there, soaked in the richness of these tales that blend past and present with a quiet ease. Each scene wraps around your mind like a soft blanket worn by love and comfort. And as this anthology of tastes, sounds, and scents whispers from a time half remembered, half imagined, you realize these stories are lullabies crafted from the echoes of laughter and resilience that ripple through time. Now, the soft embrace of night closes in, and beneath a canopy that could be stars just as much as it could be your bedroom ceiling, you drift slowly, sweetly, into a slumber as full and satisfying as a cowboy's hearty trail supper. Let this serene journey carry you into dreams as rich in history as they are in warmth, guiding you with a gentle hand into the cozy stillness of night. Wrapped in the gentle embrace of this whimsical night, you let the stories of the Old West carry you further still. Each tale a soft whisper, each memory a gentle note in a lullaby stretching across time. The rhythmic trot of hooves and lowing cattle becomes a soothing symphony, an inviting distraction from the complexities of modern life, much like a calming playlist put on endless repeat for days when the world seems to spin just a little too fast. In these quiet moments, you find yourself imagining those solitary figures, cowboys riding along the endless horizon, their faces weathered by wind and sun, with hearts beating in tune to the pulse of the wild, untamed land around them. Their world was one filled with challenges and simplicity all at once. A world where necessity bred creativity and meals needed to nourish both body and soul. Campfires scattered along the trail held a magnetic pull, gathering travelers to their warmth like moths to a soft glow, an oasis against the vast wilderness. The chuck wagon spread was a culinary adventure, with lard frying up trail biscuits that were hard as the very ground beneath us, yet tender with the familiar comfort that only hot, fresh bread can deliver. It's like tasting a warm, freshly baked cookie after a long day, the sweetness lingering with every bite. The ingenuity shown on this rugged frontier never ceases to amaze. Who would think of tossing dough into a pot and burying it in hot coals just to give it that hearty finish? But there it was, sourdough, bubbling away whimsically, a bubbling pioneer of today's baking trends. Flour mixed with wild yeast was their testament to adaptability, a necessity that echoed in the very fabric of their daily lives. Here's a quirky tidbit that still gets murmured about in historical circles. Some cowboys swore by using a dash of sourdough starter to freshen up their coffee. You'd wonder if this was desperation blooming into innovation, or simply a prank gone awry, but no one can say for certain. Much like those stories of buying magic beans from vending machines that promise the world and deliver much less. Historians still marvel at the relative culinary feats mastered by those nomadic chefs, wondering aloud whether their innovation was born of desperation or sheer brilliance. Did they see themselves as culinary cowboys, ranged across their kitchens on the open plains, or were they just making do? These questions mix into the night like cream swirling in a cup of cocoa, an unfinished riddle of imagination. Gathered around fires or tucked under the canvas of a chuck wagon, these meals were more than just sustenance. They were the very essence of community, threads that held together the tapestry of trail life. As stories and laughter flickered with the flames, they reminded everyone that wherever you broke bread, you were home. This feeling lives on today in every shared gathering, in every meal that brings people together with love and laughter. The depth of night now whispers to you, sinking sweetly into your being, stitching you into its peaceful fabric. The shadows lengthen, and as the songs of crickets and the soft breath of wind cradles you, you find yourself held in the delicate balance of wakefulness and slumber. Each breath is a gentle reminder to relax, to release, to weave yourself into the gentle embrace of dreams. Let yourself be swept away in this tide, where the echoes of horses' hooves remain a timeless lullaby, and the soft glow of a distant campfire is a beacon, drawing you deeper into sleep's soothing realm. Here, the night unfolds before you, a comforting quilt of stories, keeping you warm and snug within its whispered edges. Yielding to its gentle call, you drift softly away, embraced by a night as endless and welcoming as the sky above. As you drift in this cloud of soothing stories, a gentle wave of comfort washes over you, pulling you deeper into the cozy embrace of night. The imaginary crackle of a nearby campfire, its glow flickering against the vast darkness, plays like a sleepy lullaby, wrapping around your senses like warm robes on a chilly morning. For a moment, it feels as if you're swaddled in the very heart of the West, dreams sewn together with threads of myth and memory. Imagine yourself nestled near the glowing embers, the stars spread across the night like a sequined blanket, each one a tiny witness to the tales traded between friends on the trail. There's an unspoken connection here, between the past and present, between the nomads of old and our own wandering hearts. These moments, suspended in time, are what give depth to the night. A reminder that just as trails extend endlessly, so do the stories of those who journey them. Perhaps you now think of another unusual delicacy from the period, pickled rattlesnake. Yes, you'd raise an eyebrow or two at the thought today, just as you would upon meeting a cowboy sporting a mustache curled to perfection, waxed and ready to face any number of rollicking adventures. This peculiar treat could be found in specific saloons and was said to be a taste worth writing home about, though whether it was postcard-worthy is another story. Historians remain locked in amiable debate over whether these exotic snacks were as widespread as rumored or simply tall tales created to entertain newcomers. The truth, much like an elusive mirage on a desert trail, flutters tantalizingly close, yet just beyond certainty. Was there a market for these scaly snacks, or were they merely a culinary prank, bossing your taste buds around like a hurried chef? As you sway gently on the edge of sleep, consider how those Western meals were often a blend of needs and improvisation, much like deciding what to cobble together for a midnight snack from whatever you have left in the pantry. These were flavors born from the essence of resourcefulness, where innovation mixed with necessity to create something uniquely satisfying, even if it didn't always resemble a polished menu. From the bar's counter to the chuck wagon's confines, food found its place as part of the fabric that united the adventurers of the Wild West. Meals brought relief from a hard day's work. Foodstuffs deemed humble by modern standards, but wrapped in the very soul of the journey. An experience richer than any elaborate feast at a glittering banquet. As the tales continue to rock you gently, your breathing slows, each inhalation bringing you closer to rest. The world outside quiets to a murmur, fading softly away like the last notes of a lullaby in the evening air. Here, between the threads of storytelling and the touch of night's gentle caress, you find safety and solace, a place born just for you within these whispered truths of yesteryears. Allow yourself to nest in this sanctuary of quiet, where the softness of sleep awaits, ready to enfold you in its embrace. Let the shadows lengthen, spreading warmth along the curves of your dreams, ushering you peacefully into the night's embrace, full of stories, comfort, and the endless possibilities of dreams spun from the folds of history's gentle fabric. In the comforting quiet of the night, the tales of the Old West saloons and their humble meals keep you company, like the gentle ticking of a clock in a silent room. You drift further into the softness, where the night air, if you give it a scent, smells of warm hearths and a hint of earth after rain, a scent that embraces you as something timeless and lovingly familiar. The meals served at a saloon were more than just food. They were the currency of fellowship, the kind of communal experience that ties strangers together with invisible threads. Stepping into one of those places was akin to logging into a shared space, like the sprawling expanse of the digital world today, full of characters and stories waiting to unfold, albeit with fewer likes and shares. Let's wander deeper into another curious culinary chapter of that time: the Dutch oven apple cobbler. A dessert as sweet as it sounds, it relied on simple ingredients, kindled by a love for crafting something beautiful and indulgent from the barest of essentials. Picture cowboys delighting in this treat after a long day, the warm cinnamon notes swirling around as taste and memory commingled in a harmony as sweet as the cobbler itself. It's amusing, looking back, how this dessert proved to be a symbol of victory against the harsh realities of life on the plains. Its ingredients were often scrounged and hoarded, precious sugar and canned apples finding their way into a cast iron pot. Doesn't it remind you a bit of today's gleeful satisfaction in crafting something delightful from the edges of the pantry? A small celebration over simple victories? Historians still share stories about these recipes, murmuring over campfires and coffee mugs about whether such delicacies were common or reserved for nights when celebration could not be ignored. Was it a piecemeal tribute to some grand occasion, or merely the result of needing to use every scrap of leftover before it disappeared? The answers hover in twilight's soft grasp, an unfinished dreamer's sketch on a vast, unwritten canvas. In either case, these desserts and meals offered a rare, sweet reprieve from the ordinary, a chance to forget time ticking by, much like indulging in an entire evening swept away by a delightful book or the entrancing sway of digital escapism. And now, as you sit back, enveloped in the dark's gentle embrace, let these thoughts unfurl within you like a slow, unfolding dawn. Let the warmth of adventure, history, and flavor guide you into that tranquil expanse where sleep greets you like an old friend, arms wide and inviting. Each gentle breath leads you deeper into this comfort, where dreams are the loom and the night your weaver. You nest into the softness of this time-forgotten world, allowing yourself to glide gracefully over the smooth melodies sung by these tales. As you drift into the night's velvet shadows, embrace the peaceful feeling that only stories woven in shared history can bring. A calm sea, cradling you from this moment straight into the heart of dreams, safe, restful, and deeply, beautifully asleep. In the tranquil embrace of night, the stories of cowboy coffee and saloon life become your lullabies, gently rocking you as you float further into sleep's tender realm. It's a universe crafted from yarns spun in the flickering firelight, where each tale of beans and biscuits, of spurs and saddle leather, whispers a little softer with every passing moment. You can almost hear the gentle clinking of metal pots and the soft hum of campfire conversation, echoing like distant memories that warm you from the inside out. The sound is as soothing as rain on a rooftop or leaves rustling outside your window. An invitation to lose yourself in this soft symphony of the past, much like drifting aimlessly through a virtual gallery of old photos that bring gentle smiles to your heart. As you let these stories settle around you, you see how even the most rugged of cowboys crave the kind of comfort that familiar foods could provide. Can you picture them now, perched by the fire, swapping tales of the day as stars appeared overhead? Each meal a small triumph, each shared bite a piece of humanity in a landscape that could feel so immense and lonely. Ah, but here's a little charm for you. Did you know they sometimes indulged in what they called sack posset? Essentially, a warm milk drink flavored with a hint of ale or whiskey, intended to lull even the most restless soul into peaceful rest. It's like the predecessor to your favorite nightcap or mug of steaming hot cocoa, savored while nestled under a favorite throw. Historians still muse over whether such concoctions were common campfire fare or special treats, debated amidst discussions of cavalry exploits and cowboy lore. Were they reserved for frosty nights when the chill sunk deep into the marrow, or simply the result of whatever was left in the wagon at day's end? The stories twist playfully around the truth, a testament to the improvisations born on boundless prairies. And in the quiet of night, as your thoughts meander between then and now, you see how these pioneer creations have ripples throughout time, evidence of a human spirit that thrives on connection, on warmth, on the simple pleasures that thread themselves into the tapestry of life. There's a comforting camaraderie between past and present. It's the same spirit that compels you to share a meal with friends or find solace in the quiet peace of your own company. Relaxing into this place of soft memories, you bask in the bittersweet juxtaposition of history and imagination. The flickering shadows of imagined campfires blend with the familiar darkness around you, a gentle bridge to the realm of dreams that awaits. Your breathing slows, steady and rhythmic, carrying you gently on the still waters of night to that soft, welcoming place where the world's dramas melt away. You are cradled here in a night that enfolds you tenderly, its edges whispering sweetly as it guides you further into your own restful dreams. Let go. Release the tether of wakefulness and let the stories carry you into the embrace of sleep, soft as a whisper, yet firm as the earth grounding you to this moment of perfect peace. Sleep lightly, sweetly, letting the tales guide you where they will, secure in the quiet knowledge that sleep will hold you gently tonight, just as it will every night hereafter. Beneath the vast expanse of starry night, the gentle narratives of the Old West continue to embrace you, weaving a dreamscape as tender as the softest lullaby. The tales of cowboys and their curious culinary endeavors become a tapestry of soothing whispers, guiding you slowly and assuredly into the serene cradle of sleep. Imagine yourself tucked away in a snug bedroll by a campfire, surrounded by the low, comforting hum of the evening. The glow of the flames casts dancing shadows, flickering in harmony with the timeless rhythm of crickets singing and coyotes calling softly in the distance. The prairie wind, gentle and cool, wraps around you like a blanket, carrying with it the scent of sagebrush and the whispers of endless trails traveled. You find yourself contemplating the bustle of life at a bustling saloon, a place where stories lingered as thickly as the aroma of tobacco smoke and the sound of clinking glasses. As the imaginations wander, those wooden walls echoed with laughter and the strum of a guitar, a soundtrack to sarsaparilla-fueled evenings beneath oil lamp chandeliers. Much like streaming your favorite album in your living room, it was a source of comfort and familiarity in a world that seemed as wild and unpredictable as a stallion running free. And oh, the eccentric side servings that sometimes found their way onto those saloon tables. Have you heard of cowboy butter? It was just a simple compound butter, whipped up with any herbs that found their way off the trail. Picture cowboy chefs getting fancy with their pancakes or biscuits, a nod to the softer indulgences of life, often overshadowed by the grit and grind of daily labor. It was about celebrating what was available, savoring the moment, bland or flavorful, and bringing a little festivity to the plate with minimal frill. Historians still debate how widespread these delightful touches were in the rustic menu of the West, pondering over whether they were shared at grand gatherings or kept for private reserve. Perhaps it mirrors the way we sprinkle a dash of joy into our everyday meals, finding pleasure in all the small details that make life delightful. As daylight winds gently down into the soft hues of twilight, you feel the pull of sleep gathering at the edges of your consciousness, as inevitable as the sunset spilling across the horizon. In those final moments of wakefulness, the world around you feels limitless and calm, a serene surrender to the quiet night air, brimming with dreams, both tender and untroubled. You allow yourself to luxuriate in this pocket of peace, where each breath is a bridge to the land of dreams and every heartbeat a soft lull inviting you to drift further away. Let the harmony of past and present continue to guide you, like a gentle river flowing effortlessly through the quiet night. Recline in this peaceful embrace, the tenderness of history cradling you, guiding you softly and gently into that sacred space where dreams unfold like petals of a flower, kissed by dew. Let go and sink deeply into this hushed and devoted solace. Here in the sanctuary of night's kind grace, the world fades into whispers, and you find yourself drifting softly, timelessly, into the embrace of peaceful, uninterrupted sleep.